Game over. Game over.
Johnny. You're gonna need a bigger boat. So serious. Roll out.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast.
Welcome to episode 696 for July 11th, 2026, and I'm Jada Duran.
And I'm Megan Kearns.
Hey, thanks for joining us, everybody, and happy Odyssey week to all.
Woohoo!
We are finally here. We have been counting down the days and the minutes to Christopher Nolan's new film, The Odyssey, because, of course, that's the material he decided to tackle next after Oppenheimer a few years ago, film that I quite adored and loved. We will be reviewing The Odyssey this week. I'm very, very excited to see it and to dig into that. It's very rare that I'm able to get to one of the press screenings, but Sam is delighted to go to this screening with me. So we're going to go together. And so we're actually going to get that review out early than we normally are able to. So I'm very excited to review The Odyssey this week. And then we are also going to be digging into Olivia Wilde's new film, The Invite. And I'll just say, it's going to be a good week. We're going to have some fun with reviews this week.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Because I am thrilled to dig into that one as well. But for the main show this week, leading into those reviews, we have a top 5. I'm actually kind of surprised we haven't done this. Brendan and I did a top 5 Nolan-isms, which is adjacent to what we're about to do. But that was all the way back in 2017 when Dunkirk came out. We did do a ranking of sorts a few years ago with Oppenheimer, but in the spirit of Barbenheimer, which of course was the big thing of 2023, we did a Nolan Gerwig combined ranking, like leading up to the release of both of those movies. So we've sort of done a Nolan ranking here on the show before, but we've never done a top 5 Nolan films, like in the conventional sense. Perhaps we'll do that at some point in the future. But for this week's show, we're going to be talking about our top 5 Nolan scenes, which we haven't done. We've talked about many Nolan films. We've talked about some electrifying scenes in his filmography, but we haven't done this exercise before, and I am very eager to get into that in the back half of this episode. We are going to start off this week, however, by once again going to the box office, because, good Lord, there is an irony that I didn't ever foresee happening, Megan. I never in a million years, and perhaps I should have, but it was the specific context that blew me away this week. The very specific context. Now, if you were paying attention to the date up front, we are recording this a little bit earlier in the weekend than we normally do. So as of this recording, we don't have the official Moana box office numbers, but it is trending in pretty disappointing fashion for Disney. They fast-tracked this some years ago, and the live-action remakes, if we want to call them that, if we are going to be generous, they haven't done well critically, a lot of them, but they've made Disney money. And look, that's all they care about. That's all they care about. And I will say this, it's a bit of a paradox, because how often do we come on this show, Megan, and we're clamoring for people to go to the box office or to go to the theater, right? We're always championing the theatrical experience. So it's paradoxical to sit here and go, well, I really don't want this movie to do well. Go to the theater except for XYZ, right? It feels a little weird to phrase it that way because I'm not often hoping that movies will fail.
Right. Of course not.
However, I was rooting for the new live action Moana to fail. I was, admittedly. I don't know how others feel about it. Maybe it's not a big deal to you. I don't know. But the reason that I was rooting for it to fail is because Disney cannot be incentivized to keep doing this. They can't. So many of these movies have been awful. They've been terrible. But they don't care how we feel about these movies critically. Obviously, they don't care. If they make $1 bajillion, they're going to keep making them. Did it make sense for them to continue Toy Story after 3? Absolutely not. Do you think they give one iota of a shit about that? No, because 4 and 5 made $1 billion. Both of them have garnered $1 billion. We will unequivocally get Toy Story 6. In fact, they've probably greenlit another 5 of those movies.
Oh, God, probably.
Who knows? So obviously the studios don't care if it makes money. And we've talked endlessly. We've gone on and on over the years. So perhaps this is redundant and I do apologize. And I am getting to a point. I am leading us somewhere. But I wanted to start off here because so many of these modern blockbusters, and it's not just the animated remakes that Disney is doing, and it's not just the Disney problem. It's what we've talked about endlessly, incessantly over the last few years here on the show, as many podcasts and the discourse on Twitter has echoed all of this as well. We simply live in a world where these movies look cheap. They aren't being made cheaply, obviously.
No.
Just a few weeks ago, Megan, we were on here losing our minds going, how are they going to keep making these movies at $300 million a pop? There's no way they can sustain that.
No.
And that is a part of this. That is absolutely a part of this. But despite the money and the budget for these movies, they look cheap. They look terrible. So we needed something to happen for them to no longer be incentivized to make these movies. And here we are, Moana, the live action remake. It is not doing great. It has barely made $40 million this weekend as of this recording. And the projections, I believe, are somewhere in the neighborhood of $60 million. But I don't even think it's going to make that. It might hover in that $40 to $50 million range when the weekend is all said and done. Again, we are recording this early, so those numbers they may or may not be completely accurate. Either way, it is not going to do as well as Disney hoped for. This movie is going to bomb.
Yeah.
Comparatively to their expectations anyway. Now, who knows? Maybe it gets good word of mouth and audiences love it. I did see it had a cinema score of A-, so I guess those that are going are liking it enough. But I don't foresee this having a healthy run at the box office. I think this one is going to halt the Disney machine. And again, I'm not often hoping movies will fail, but I do see this as a good thing, Megan. I think this is a good thing.
Yeah, I also don't want movies to fail, and if this is the movie that gets people to go to the movies, great. And if you love it, great. And the fact that there are so many Pacific Islander cast members that are part of it, that's amazing. I love that. What I don't love, though, and I've never loved, is the remaking of animated films as if animation is not a viable medium that deserves
Yeah.
respect and artistry and support. And especially from a studio that was founded on animation. There's no shame in having live action movies, of course, because throughout much of Disney's history, they have had live action films.
Oh,
and
we'll talk about that.
TV. Yeah.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get
Yeah,
there. Yes.
But of course, animation is what set them apart. Animation is how they started, and animation to me is what they should revere. And to remake the movies beat for beat is just gross. If you're going to do something like in the way that Maleficent is telling a different story from a different perspective, different character, I'm here for that. I'm not mad at that at all. If you want to do a live action retelling, Cruella, the same thing, a retelling from a different perspective, I'm here for that. But if you're going to do a shot for shot, beat for beat remake, like what are we doing?
It's ridiculous. That's why Mulan is my favorite of them. It's not the best one. I still think Cinderella, funny enough, the first of these so-called live action remakes that they've been doing recently anyway, that one might be the best one, but Mulan is my favorite. And again, for context, Mulan, the animated film, I would argue is top 5 Disney. I think it is one
excellent.
of the very best Disney movies, hands down, full stop. And I love that the live action film they did some years ago, which I think came out in 2020. It was like right as the pandemic was starting to happen. And so it never got its due in theaters, unfortunately. I do think the film would have made at least some money. Either way, I do agree critically that it has some pacing issues. It's not the best of them, but it's my favorite because it is nothing like the animated film. Absolutely nothing like it. It has its own vision. It tells its own tale. It has its own spin on it. The bare bones of Mulan is there for sure, but it doesn't feel or function anything like the animated movie. And that's how these movies should work. I agree with you. If it's shot for shot, beat for beat, what is the point? There's no artistic merit there. And that to me, and I want to be crystal clear on this, the reason I was rooting for this to fail, it's not the story of Moana or the character of Moana or the representation on screen. Obviously, all of that is great. I think that original animated film was spectacular. This is a quality issue. This is Disney not giving a shit, pouring zero passion into this and cheaply making this to make money. And that's it. That's the whole incentive. That's the whole goal. They don't care about making good art. And that is clear as day with this live action Moana. No passion, no conviction, just green light this, fast track it, get it to theaters because we feel like this is an easy $1 billion.
Yep.
So this failing is good because you need to cut through that mentality. The Moana is prime for a great live action adaptation. Of all the animated movies in Disney or Pixar's canon, Moana is ready to be made in live action, but not like this, not like what we got over the weekend. And it's not necessarily just a live action problem, circling it back to the mentality being the issue, because Moana 2, I think, is also a disaster. It's not a very good animated film because it was made as a series that Bob Iger at the last minute was like, scrap all that, just cut the... I almost swore. I almost like loose again. Just cut the thing up from 6 episodes into 2 hours and throw that baby into cinemas. And it wasn't very good. You could tell that it was chopped to hell. The editing is a nightmare in Moana 2. like fundamentally what it's going for, I think, is fine, but they clearly made it to go to Disney Plus. So it doesn't work very well as a movie, but they were rewarded for that. Bob Iger was rewarded for that decision because damn quality, just put the shit into theaters, and Moana 2 made gobs of money for Disney. And what I'm trying to fight back against here is poor quality. Poor quality. Mm-hmm. We need to call them out on this crap so that way we can eventually get back to having good movies in cinemas from the major studios.
Yeah.
And because the major studios often, not always, but often do drive a lot of the box office sales each and every year, you do need them to do well. But in the middle of it, I don't want live action Moanas, and I don't want the Moana 2s of the world either. We should be demanding better from Disney and Warner Brothers and Paramount and A24 and Apple or whoever. And that's what I'm pushing back. That's why I was rooting against Moana. It has nothing to do with the idea of Moana. Again, the character, the representation, as you noted, all of that is great. I love that. I wish they got a better adaptation than what we got over the weekend. They deserve a better adaptation. But to just shop, like, it's the same problem I had with How to Train Your Dragon, which was the same issues. No passion, no conviction, just get that shit in theaters to make money. And How to Train Your Dragon is one of my favorite animated series of all time. I think that trilogy is masterful. The live action movie, I wish didn't exist. Or at least if it was going to happen, have some sort of unique vision to it.
Right.
But there's nothing. And it's not just a Disney issue. This is a major studio issue in Hollywood. They're all doing this, and it needs to stop. That's what I'm pushing back against.
Yep. It's a late stage capitalism issue in that who cares about art? Who cares about beautiful, challenging, fascinating storytelling? We just want to churn it out. It's a product that we can make money off of and do it, and that's it. And it's so sad. I mean, and it's also sad to me that it is these large studios that are pushing the box office numbers, of course. And it makes sense because, of course, they have the money. So they're going to scoop up more films. They're going to have bigger budgets so they can do more marketing and get in more theaters. But it is so frustrating because in some cases, that's where the best films are and excellent films. But in many cases, it's not. It's not in the large studios. It's not the big budget films. It's in the much smaller films, the indie films. That's where you see more creativity, more risk taking. And it's so frustrating, though. And it's especially frustrating, I feel like, if you're a Disney fan and in that you love Disney movies, because while not every Disney movie is impeccable or amazing, of course, they were crafted with care, with talent, with artistry, with creativity. And to see that shift it's sad. It's demoralizing. It's sad. It's unfortunate. And I also want it to just get back to incredible storytelling. And that's what we want to see.
That's what we want to see. And obviously this circles back to conversations we've had over the last few weeks as far as how these movies are being made. But I do think this is a good thing because audiences are starting to vote with their wallet. It is these live action remakes. It is the superhero movies. 10 years ago, those were virtually guaranteed to be huge hits, regardless of quality. They were virtually guaranteed to be huge. And now we live in a world where Superman, one of, if not the most iconic character in all of comic bookdom, did okay last year. Did okay. I forget the number off the cuff. We looked it up a few weeks ago when we were discussing this. I think it was like 650 worldwide, something like that. That's not great given the fact that you're talking about Superman. That's wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild. And of course, Supergirl and all these other movies we mentioned a few weeks ago, they've been very middling. Like Marvel is desperate for a hit. Now, the good news is that Spider-Man Brand New Day is tracking very, very well. That looks like it's going to be a huge hit when that comes out in a few weeks. Of course, it's going to be competing with the Odyssey, so we'll see how it all shakes out. But the tracking so far is very good for that movie. We'll see with Avengers. It's a bit strange that we've seen 2 trailers now for Dune. We've barely seen anything for Avengers.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they're waiting for San Diego Comic-Con because I think that's happening next week or in a few weeks. It's coming up shortly. Maybe they're waiting for that to release a new trailer and to go huge in terms of like the introduction to all of their marketing, which that's understandable. I could see that being the case. But to this point, we haven't really seen much for that movie. Other than, again, the day we are recording this, there was some sort of concept art that was released, and it was not good.
Oh.
Not good.
Oh.
But that's
To
just
check it out
concept
after.
art. That doesn't necessarily mean anything.
No.
I am curious for that movie for all the reasons we noted a few weeks ago. But if Spider-Man does well, that certainly gives evidence to suggest that Avengers will do well. And look, that film is obviously going to be nostalgia pandering like nobody's business.
Yeah, but I do wonder if Avengers will do as well, only because I feel like Spider-Man, you have the utter charm and delight and power couple of Tom Holland and Zendaya. And I feel like even if you're not a comic book fan, you may be drawn to it because of the two of them and how delightful they are.
And that's a great point, and it's why I stick to my convictions regarding the questions I brought up a few weeks ago in terms of how well that movie may or may not fare. It might not do as well as Disney and Marvel are hoping and predicting. It might not. People might just be done and fed up with the MCU at this point.
Yeah, possibly.
Even if Spider-Man does well, because again, to your point, that might just be the Zendaya Holland of it all. So who knows? We'll see. Either way, the point that I'm trying to make is that all of these huge genre movies, superheroes and live action remakes in particular, 10 years ago, those were guaranteed to be huge hits. And audiences are simply not going anymore. And the quality of those movies have only gotten worse and worse and worse over those 10 years as well. And they look cheap. They look awful. They barely function like movies sometimes. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule. I thought Thunderbolts looked great.
Thunderbolts is
great.
a delight.
It's so good.
It's so good. I enjoy it.
And I went to bat for Superman last year. I thought it was really good,
Superman. Yeah.
extremely affable. Love the score,
agreed.
the performances. But I will admit, visually leaves a lot to be desired because it's still so CGI heavy.
Yeah.
But at least it has some of those James Gunn color palette things that give it a little bit of a kick for sure.
Yep.
But generally, the quality has only worsened. And if this live action Moana is the pinnacle of how bad movies can look with the amount of money going into it, I mean, that movie, that's why I almost had hard stop on this movie had to fail. We cannot incentivize more of this. We can't.
No.
We absolutely cannot do that. So I'm happy that it's going to give Disney pause moving forward. Hopefully we don't see any more of that.
Let's hope.
And they put more money into the actual goddamn craft. That would be nice. And perhaps that leads to the great irony I mentioned earlier up at the top here, because over this last week, and I do absolutely love that it was the week leading up to Moana. The trailers looked awful, and not just for critics and cinephiles, but across the board. I don't think it was appealing to general audiences either, at least not those that I talked to or from what I saw online. I did get some pushback about it. There's always going to be people out there going, no, like I want more Lilo and Stitches and more of these Moanas.
What?
And look, if that's your jam, all the power to you.
Sure.
Like, but for the rest of us, for the rest of us, we want movies to look like movies.
Yes.
And we all had reservations about Moana. So I absolutely love that in the week leading up to Moana, given all of that trepidation, what was going super viral on Twitter this last week, Transformers and Pirates of the Caribbean. Absolutely hysterical. We've, of course, talked about this a ton over the years. Earlier in the year, Brendan and I can't even begin to count how many times we've talked about that Pirates trilogy.
So much.
we brought so many times we talked about it, and then once Megan took over Brendan's role, it trickled into her era here as well, because I've incessantly brought it up to Megan here on the show.
Yes.
And so, yes, we've talked a lot about pirates. And it makes sense, right? Because you go back and watch those movies, they look and feel like real movies. And I think that first film is borderline a masterpiece. I've argued here on the show, I think At World's End is the best of the three of them. They look awesome. They're so much fun. Hans Zimmer doing God tier work in those movies.
The score is great.
Unbelievable cast. And they hold up phenomenally well. And among all of what I just said, the reputation it might carry the most, especially in this context, is the CGI. Davy Jones in particular.
Looks so good.
Looks so good. People talk about that being the best CGI of all time. That's the reputation of those movies. Of course, you can debate that all day as far as what you think is the best, but that is often heralded as the best CGI we've seen to date. That was 20 years ago, those movies.
Yeah.
In fact, is it next year or 28 that Black Pearl is going to be celebrating its 25th anniversary?
Oh, I'm not sure.
I'm trying to remember because the Academy put out a tweet because, again, a lot of why Pirates was getting talked about is that Black Pearl celebrated an anniversary this week. Just adding fun irony to all of this.
Yeah.
And I want to say maybe it was the 23rd anniversary of Black Pearl. So maybe its 25th is in 2 years from now. But that's crazy. So the Davy Jones of it all, that's about 20 years. And that's the best. It's been 20 years since Davy Jones. And we all look back at that going, man, what a time. What a time to be alive. Movies now look like absolute garbage.
Well, that's so funny that you say that, because when I was talking with Shadon recently on Chasing the Gold, I was talking about Lord of the Rings, which I feel like I talk about incessantly. And because, just rewatching the extended editions in the theater earlier this year was such an incredible experience. And again, watching those, and those are like 25 years old, and they look incredible. The effects in those
movies are also impeccable.
They look gorgeous. And it's
stunning.
It's mind-boggling that these are over 20 years old. Jurassic Park. The fact that looks still as good as it does. It's just wild. Yeah. Wild.
Which was 10 years prior to Lord of the Rings. Almost. Not quite, but around there.
Yeah. It was in 93.
It's stunning.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Absolutely stunning. That 2000s era, we look back on and go, man, we had it way better than we thought we did.
Yeah.
Because those
Yeah.
pirate sequels, and we'll get to Transformers here in a moment, they were not well reviewed at the time.
No, they weren't.
The Matrix sequels, which is another franchise I will throw in the mix here, they were not reviewed very well. And
Crime. I
maybe-
love those.
I wholeheartedly agree. And maybe it is the time in which we're living now. And I am absolutely a victim of it. How many times, Megan, have we been doing a review and I'm like, well, compared to what it used to be,
Yep.
maybe it's not. Yeah. So like, I feel like I bring that up all the time. It's really hard not to think about movies today in that context.
Right.
And so, yeah, a lot of those movies at the time, we wanted better, maybe expected better. I think part of it is we were a little bit too harsh, or our culture was just in a different place. I think the Matrix sequels, Pirates, I'll get to Transformers here in a minute. But I think all those movies were way better than how they were discussed at the time anyway. But I do think a big part of it is, the movies we get now, when you compare them to those movies, they're like, yeah, those movies from the 2000s are just way better.
Yeah.
And they're immersive and fun and colorful.
Oh, colorful. I know. Imagine that so craving of color, which is why I feel like it warms my heart when I see people talking about Technicolor and waxing poetic about it. And there's a reason, because we're so craving color and color contrast and proper lighting.
Yeah.
It's amazing the things that
Crazy.
we want. Yeah. But I also think it's funny thinking about those 2000 films, those franchise films. I think some of it has to do with too is that franchise films and genre films don't always get the respect. Actually, they often don't get the respect that they deserve in storytelling. And also hindsight, a lot of times I think can certainly work against a film, but it also can work in a film's favor. You know, like the films that stick with us, the films that we want to revisit and rewatch.
100%.
All of that.
When Jay Ledbetter was a co-host on the show, this was maybe around 2018, 19 or so. He had a great idea that I think the Academy should adopt. And this speaks directly to your point, Megan.
I think
because
I know what you're gonna say.
his idea was the Oscar should be for the films from 5 years ago.
Yes. That's so wild, because my best friend has said that too. For years, has said the exact same thing, that the Oscars should be for the films 5 years prior. I love it.
Yes.
This needs to catch on.
I completely agree. Because you can't fully process everything you're seeing in real time.
Right.
And also,
right.
we're only getting to see most of these films once. Not all of us can rewatch them before going to do the voting.
Exactly.
And also time gives us, like, there is something about hindsight that allows maturity to be the focal point. And so we're not just judging these things based off of immediate feelings, which can be misleading.
Right.
Right. And can be misguided. Sometimes it works out great. Parasite, I think we nailed it.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes we get it right. Moonlight.
Yeah. Moonlight. I was just
Good
going to say,
job,
Moonlight
everybody.
got it right.
Good job. Sometimes we get it right, but a lot of the time it's mixed results at best. And sometimes it's just egregious how award season plays out. But yeah, you give 5 years of time, essays, video essays, more thought, more times to rewatch these movies, and that would give us a fuller picture of what that year actually is.
Yes.
So I agree. I think that's a brilliant idea. That's what the Academy should
totally
adopt.
Agree.
Because you're right. I mean, that's a big part of why we look at the 2000s in such a different way, because we've had all of this time to process what those movies were actually doing in the context of a larger series. Because sometimes those sequels, we don't get the full picture.
Right.
Until the third film comes out or the fourth film comes out. And now in a series, it makes so much more sense. That's a big part of it as well. So time and hindsight, processing power, all of that is very much at play, coupled with how movies are made today, which just gives those movies from 20 years ago more credence.
Yes.
Visually speaking, craft, performances, scores, all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think, and I know that I'm going to get some pushback here. That's perfectly fine. But I would argue this for Michael Bay as well. Michael Bay, I think, is one of our greatest formalists. His biggest problem is he doesn't give a shit about story. Storytelling is not why he makes movies. If he didn't have to tell a story, he wouldn't, I don't think. I do think he needs someone, a partner, like you have, like the Coen brothers always work together. Not always, but for a long time they work together.
Right.
I think that Bay needs a partner, someone to handle the storytelling part of it, because he just doesn't care. But in terms of composition and framing and making something look fucking badass and cool, there's no one better. Now, I will say this, to be fair to Michael Bay, even as a storyteller, I think he is attuned to America and how it works at its grimiest levels. He does that actually very well and doesn't get enough credit for it. I think Bad Boys 2, for example, is a phenomenal exercise in holding up a mirror to America. I think it's actually brilliant as that. Pain and Gain, maybe even more so. And I know he gets perhaps more kudos for Pain and Gain. It actually is one of his best movies, maybe even his best movie. And it's kind of a weird outlier because you have all of the traditional Michael Bay formalist filmmaking stuff, but simply as a satire, I think it works wonderfully in that regard as well. It feels like it was directed from a completely different person. And I love that. But the Bad Boys movies, I think, are doing something similar, just without the satire lens. It is very much holding up a mirror to America at its, kind of murkiest levels. And I think it paints a pretty accurate portrait, in addition to just being extremely diverting and fun. And Martin Lawrence and Will Smith have some of the best chemistry I've ever seen on screen. So Michael Bay is really great in terms of blockbuster entertainment and spectacle, of course. And that leads to what we saw earlier in the week. It wasn't Bad Boys or Pain and Gain that people were talking about, but I bring those movies up to go to bat for Michael Bay a little bit. I think he's actually much better as a filmmaker than he gets credit for, even though the stereotypes around him are very true and very funny to break down for sure. The Transformers movies. So here's the other thing too. I don't know how much you know about this with me, Megan, because we haven't talked about this specifically, but our longtime listeners will know this. I am a huge champion of Transformers. So aside from Spider-Man, which you and I have talked about here on the show, the franchise I grew up with most intimately was Transformers. It was the comics, it was the TV show, it was the toys, everything. Had it all. So I was huge into Transformers lore when I was a kid. So when they were going to do the movie, and at the time, like, I was already a big fan of the Bad Boys movies, which had come out. Armageddon was stupid, dumb fun. Like, I genuinely love that movie. It makes no sense, but it just, when you remove logic, the tension of that film and the comedy of it is just sensational. Like, again, just the Michael Bay formalist thing of it all. So when he was tapped to do Transformers, I was like, okay, I can see that working. And the funny thing about Transformers, so it comes out, I'm in college when it comes out, and I'm obsessed, absolutely obsessed. Saw the film, God knows how many times in theaters. I had a really fun experience one time when my original co-host, who I launched In Session Film with, Nate and I went to Ypsilanti, Michigan to see Transformers in IMAX.
Oh.
And it was one of those releases where they added more to it as well. There was like a few extra scenes. And so we go up there, we watch almost the entirety of the whole thing. Like it's like right up until like you get to the final battle of the movie. There's like 20 minutes left and the projector fails.
Oh no.
Yeah, just breaks down. And we're going to school in Bowling Green, Ohio. Ypsilanti is like an hour and a half drive.
Oh.
So the the manager comes out and gives us these refund tickets. It's like, you can come back at a later time. We're going to try to get it up in about an hour and a half. We'll have another showing, or you can just come back later. We're never coming back. Ypsilanti is an hour and a half and we're in school. So we're never coming back. So we go to a Barnes and Nobles, wait 90 minutes, go back, watch the whole thing, not just the ending, the whole goddamn movie all over again. That's how devoted, just for context, that's how devoted we were to that movie.
You're like, we need to go through the whole thing to get to the end.
Yes.
We're on this quest.
Absolutely loved it. And, you know, same thing with the two sequels that followed. And the thing about Transformers, I'm willing to admit, from a script perspective, none of them make any sense whatsoever. Michael Bay's editing in those movies is borderline atrocious. Like it's really bad. But is it a really fun Transformers movie? Absolutely. And does it have that Michael Bay formalism that works visually? 1,000%. And that's what was driving so much of the virality on social media this last week. As a huge Transformers nerd, I haven't really talked about Transformers here on the show in a long time. But as a deep nerd of Transformers that knows the lore intimately, I've seen all of those movies a gazillion times. Never in a million years did I ever anticipate that we would live in a world where we would see Transformers revisionist history. But here we are, where everyone in their mother was like, yeah, actually, maybe those films weren't that bad after all. Moana's coming out. Yeah, I would rather see Dark of the Moon again than live action Moana. And look, I'm here to say, I think Transformers Dark of the Moon is genuinely very good. I think it's the best of the Transformers movies, actually. Of the Bayformers, anyway. The Bumblebee movie that Travis Knight did is maybe the best. That one's freaking rocks, too. But yeah, I mean, Michael Bay, he's a prickly director. And I don't always love his politics, for sure. No doubt about that. And I'm not here to defend that. But I would go to bat for him as a visualist, as someone that has his own unique thumbprint. And I do think the visuals and the spectacle of his movies, it's extraordinary. And that's what people are latching onto. And I never, I don't know how much you were on Twitter this last week, Megan, but the virality of that, it was everywhere all week long. It dominated my feed. That, and then ultimately Pirates as well. I could not believe it. I've never seen anything like it.
It's like it was created just for you.
Yeah. I had the best week of my life. I had the best week of my life.
You're like, Transformers and Pirates? Where have you all been?
I know. It's like, sometimes I feel like I'm here on an island championing these movies. And here, everyone came out of the woodwork. all week long. It was unbelievable. And I mean, and not only that, but I've obviously talked a lot about the Steve Jablonsky scores. I wrote 2,000 words on Steve Jablonsky a few years ago because I think those scores are incredible. Like people don't talk about Jablonsky in the same breath as Hans Zimmer or Williams or Shore or any of those others with their iconic blockbuster scores. But I think just on its own terms, musically, I understand that Jablonsky's career doesn't hold a candle to them, but those in a vacuum, I think are as good as any blockbuster score we've seen over the last 30, 40 years. And so I needed to write about it. And I wrote 2,000 words defending that exact thesis. So like I was on cloud nine all week long.
Is this when I tell you I've never seen a single Transformers movie?
I mean, I think that's perfectly fine. This would be a fun time to do like a watch along with Megan.
I know, right? Yeah. I mean, I take that back. I've seen the animated movie. Like
from a few years ago?
No. Like the one from like
way
the
back,
80s.
the 85
Yeah,
one.
way back. Yeah. That one I've seen, but not anything else. Just that one.
Just that one. Yeah. And
so I gotta watch all the Bay Transformers and Bumblebee.
Yeah. I think you do. Like again, you have to just expect the Michael Bay murkiness.
And that's why I've stayed away.
Yeah, like it's in there for sure. And people might have feelings about, and look, I don't push back against any of that. If people have an issue with it, totally understand. But I do think the Transformers part of it, that is extremely fun. And that's where, it's that, and that's, to be fair to the discourse as well, that's mostly what people were talking about was the Transformers, the spectacle, the visuals of it all, and how the CGI holds up tremendously well. And I mean, those movies you could have removed the human characters and it was just the CGI spectacle the whole time. And I would have been elated. Like, I think we all would have been like, yeah, that's probably what they should have been.
Yeah.
The human characters are what suffer in those movies. Compared to now where we're like, we talk about it as like CGI slop or CGI soup.
Yes.
It like has this negative connotation. But you watch those movies and you're like, get rid of the humans. All I want is CGI. Just give me Optimus Prime and Bumblebee and the Autobots just kicking ass for 2 hours.
Well,
and it would have worked great.
Yeah, I mean, and I say this as someone who hasn't seen them, of course, but I think you're speaking to the larger problem of it's not necessarily the problem with CGI. I mean, and of course, I have a soft spot for practical effects, and I know there are filmmakers who do too, of course, but that's not the issue. The issue is the bad CGI, the CGI that just looks so murky and fake and cheesy and just.
I'm glad that you bring that up because honestly, this is the dividing line. Because when you watch Pirates, they're on location. There's real water.
Yes. It's tangible. Yes.
There is a tangibility to it. Obviously, there's a ton of CGI, but it is blurred and mixed in with tangible sets and locations. Michael Bay and Bayformers, same thing. Yes, you have giant CGI robots, but they're on real location. There's real explosions, real pyro effects, and real cars being blown to shit everywhere among all of the chaos and what the human characters are doing as well. So it is CGI blurred in with a lot of tangible assets.
Yes.
Where today, all of that is fake. All of that is the cars, the locations, everything is CGI. That's the difference.
Yes.
And I think that's why those films hold up incredibly well. And Transformer, again, like, I think they're a lot of fun. It's hard for me to know where you're going to land on them, not just because of the Michael Bay of it all. I am very much willing to admit that the storytelling in all of them are pretty choppy, especially the second film, because They made that during the writer's strike in 2007. So they literally had no script.
Oh,
There
great.
was zero script. And it shows. Okay.
Oh, boy.
It shows. But for me, those movies work not because of the script writing.
Right.
And that's across the board with Michael Bay, honestly. Where those films thrive are in Michael Bay's formalism and in his visual style, which is distinct. It is his own. And
that is true. That is true.
It visually pops, and he gets spectacle right. And that's all he cares about. Obviously, that's where his passion is. That's where his conviction is. And I think that's why it comes across on screen so well. He clearly doesn't give a shit about storytelling. And so it's not there, which is fine. I mean, none of us pay to go watch Michael Bay win an Oscar for screenplay. Nobody wants that. We just want explosions and Transformers. Kicking ass. Like, that's it. And he delivers he knows that, and he delivers on that. So yeah, critically, there's still a lot to parse through with those films. But again, that wasn't the discourse this week. Nobody was arguing that the writing in those films are great. Right. It was all about, hey, these films are actually good because they were made with real craft. And that part is objectively true. Yeah. Even though we can debate the quality of it overall, for sure. So yeah, to see Transformers and Pirates going super viral, I've never seen anything like it. They just dominated the discourse all week long. It was unreal. But like, I love it. I mean, and it goes to show that's not just what we are craving for. It's what everyone seems to be wanting.
Yes. I think that's a big thing, is that audiences want that too. They just might not realize they want it. They might not be able to articulate exactly precisely what it is, but I think they want it too. They want movies that are fun and that are moving and that are creative and that look good, that, are immersive. So,
which is indicative of, what we've been talking about the last few weeks, and its back rooms and its obsession. And now it's going to be the Odyssey, and people are losing their mind over Dune, which looks really great.
Yes, I'm so excited for Dune.
Yeah, I mean, those are the things dominating right now. It's not Moana. It's not Supergirl. As much as those things in a vacuum, I want to root for those things, but I don't want to root for how those films came about. We do need a shift. And when we're rewarding the films that should be rewarded, at least for now, maybe we can get to a point where it's like the 2000s and we can debate.
Yes.
Like, but hey, this film looks great, but it's bad, and we can talk about it in a bad context.
Yeah, but that does bring up a great point, or remind me of something, is that, or not remind me, but makes me think something. I do wonder what films 20 years from now will look back on and be like, actually, that was better. Like, maybe the visuals didn't work. Maybe the CGI didn't work, but the score was great, or the art direction was great, or it has a really moving story. So I am curious to see, but yeah, I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case with something, sadly, like live action Moana.
No, I don't think it's going to be for anything that we might quantify as CGI soup or CGI slop. Maybe we could see something like Superman, just because of its themes and its affable qualities, having a bit of I guess a higher respect. But where, to your point, I think the films that will really come to the forefront is going to be movies like Furiosa. Movies that were polarizing, even amongst cinephiles, and nobody went to see that movie. Bombed hard,
which is crazy to me.
Yeah, but that film is phenomenal, and so
it's a great film.
I think it's going to be those movies. I think it's going to be the Furiosas of this decade that will get that revisionist history, less the Moanas and Supergirls that we see. But we shall see. I mean, yeah, and again, just even though it was Pirates and Transformers getting most of the love this last week, it's not just those two franchises, because I think the Matrix sequels are just as good.
I agree.
Speed Racer is phenomenal. That one's gotten a bit of a revisionist history
Yes,
as of
it
late as
has.
well.
Yeah.
And that one is a phenomenal movie as well. So it's not just Pirates and Transformers. Obviously, there's a lot from that era. And then Lord of the Rings gets its proper due, but it should also be in the conversation because of the spectacle and scale of those movies, which was massive. And the context of Peter Jackson, who came out of nowhere essentially to make those huge movies. It's a miracle, truly a miracle. And I think it's also maybe important to highlight that even at the time, there's still a bunch of movies from that era that aren't getting the same history because they weren't good. And so they're not, like, I do think it says something about how those other films have held up, not just in terms of the visuals, but the storytelling or how it makes the audience feel or whatever the case may be. Because like a film like Wanted, for example, not getting the same revisionist history. Or Jumper. You remember Jumper?
Oh my God, no, I don't. I don't remember Jumper, or barely. But Wanted's a funny one though, because speaking of being on an island, I feel, and it's a film I haven't revisited in a very long time, but I really enjoyed that. But again, as I've said before, I am a sucker for anything Angelina Jolie, and I think she's the one who makes that film great.
Oh, she's very good in it, for sure.
Yeah.
I will admit, I have not seen that film probably since its release.
Yeah,
So
same.
maybe it is due for a revisionist moment.
Maybe
it is. I don't know. I just
Maybe.
brought it up as like people don't talk about it in great terms.
No,
Jumper.
they don't.
Like there are certainly
Jumper.
other blockbusters from that time that don't hold up as well.
Absolutely.
Even if it was highlighting similar technology in terms of visuals and CGI. But either way, like still, like the way movies looked then, I will take most of those movies over what we're getting now. Whatever the quality may be. We need to get back to that. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, get back to the craft of filmmaking. Imagine that.
I know. All right, Megan, let's talk about traveling. I like to travel. You like to travel as well?
I love it.
Love to travel. Who doesn't love to travel? And if you're going to be traveling, you need to make sure that you are protected. That's why we are here to talk about NordVPN, because they are fast and secure. They want to protect you from the prying eyes online that are trying to hijack your data. They want to secure your online traffic through encryption. NordVPN is available on all the major operating systems, including smart TVs and routers, which is very exciting.
Ooh.
Their Threat Protection Pro feature helps block malware and ads, malicious sites, and trackers. It was picked the best VPN by PC Mag, Forbes, Wired, Tech Advisor, and many other outlets. They have 7,200 servers in 118 countries. The options are pretty much endless with NordVPN. So if you're going to be traveling, you want to make sure that you are protected. So go and check them out. Click on the link in our description below, and you will get NordVPN. Your first month will be free. So you'll get a free month with NordVPN. Just click on the link in our the link in the description, excuse me. And as you're traveling out there, I don't know if anyone's traveling because of the World Cup. I mean, it's the summer after all, so maybe you're going on summer vacation. So make sure you are protected out there. Again, click on the link in the description. Get 30 days for free with NordVPN, and we thank them for their support. All right, Megan, let's talk about coffee.
Yes.
We have to. It's that time of the year where I drink coffee all of the time. And of course, I say that facetiously because that statement applies to every day of the year. I drink coffee incessantly. I can't stop. I'm addicted. Maybe it's the lifestyle that I live. I don't know, but I can't get through a day without it. And if you're going to be drinking coffee, you might as well drink the best coffee.
Absolutely.
And that's what we love about Coffee Cult, because they source specialty grade coffee only, high graded coffee. Not only that, do they have the best coffee that you can source, but it's roast to order. So you're not buying coffee sitting around in some warehouse for months at a time that is probably stale by the time you get your hands on it. No, this is fresh coffee. It is roasted that week, sent to you, and that makes a huge difference. I promise you, you're going to want to check this out. If you've never had fresh coffee like that before, if you've never had specialty grade coffee, it is a whole new world that you can open up your eyes to. It makes a world of difference. Go to coffeecult.com. That's coffee with the K, cult with the K. Coffeecult.com. Use our code ISF26 at checkout, and you'll get 15% off. So if you want to stay caffeinated, but also drink something luxurious, then that's Coffee Cult. Because the Ethiopian coffees they have, you can't just find those anywhere. I think I looked up the statistic actually last week of the specialty shops in America. They're it's less than 10% have the Ethiopian coffees.
And those are the best.
Yeah,
those are my favorite anyway.
Yes. The Harar is like drinking a blueberry muffin. It's it's real good.
So good.
It's real good. I promise you're going to want to check this out. So again, coffeecult.com. Use the code ISF26 at checkout for 15% off. And we thank them for their support. All right. Well, speaking of craft and filmmaking, let's talk about a director that is certainly known for that. Let's talk a little Christopher Nolan. I am very excited to get into this. I'm a big fan of Nolan, but Megan, I guess before we get to the top 5, how do you feel about Nolan as a director?
So I didn't realize this until I was preparing for this episode. I've seen every single one of his movies except for his debut, Following. And that kind of blew my mind because I thought I had only seen like half of his filmography, and no. And I think the reason that I've seen all of them except for the one is because of his technical prowess and because he is so particular about filmmaking, and he's incredibly thoughtful and methodical about it. And even when his films don't always work for me, because sometimes there is an emotional distance that I feel, I appreciate the films for how cerebral they are, for his focus, or rather obsession with time. And I love how that is, of course, a motif throughout his films. And I love the use of effects. I love how concerned he is with cinematography and lighting and all of the technical elements, and that he's so particular about it. And so I always enjoy watching his films, even if they don't work 100% for me. So he's a really fascinating filmmaker, because I feel like there are other filmmakers where I watch their films because I love their films, or I enjoy their films are fun or captivating. And with his, I go in where even if I don't love all of them, I want to see them, and because of their technical skill. And there are films of his that I absolutely adore, that I think are incredible. So I think he's a fascinating filmmaker.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love his formalism, similar to Michael Bay. He's got a distinct look and feel to his movies, and they are made with passion. There's real craft to them across the board, whether it be the production design, the sound design, the cinematography, the score, of course, in his work with Hans Zimmer primarily. But yeah, there's real craft that goes into his movies, and that alone is noteworthy because he's often working with massive scale to some degree or another. Now, obviously that may vary, and you do get some smaller movies early on in his career, like Following and Memento. Following, I actually watched a few weeks ago in preparation for our 1998 retrospective we're about to do. So I have seen all of his movies. And yeah, I mean, there's great formalism, but the storytelling in his movies is sharp and incisive. Obviously not always perfect, but I do think there is real depth and nuance to the stories he's telling, the characters that he's crafting and creating, which makes him one of the best working today in terms of, creating these major epic spectacles that we desperately want to see on the big screen. So now he's making the Odyssey story that began stories, and everyone in their mind or everyone in their mother is losing their mind over the idea of this. And most people out there probably don't know much about the Odyssey, to be perfectly honest.
No.
And yet people are like, yes, absolutely, sign me up.
I love it.
Which is crazy. I love it. Yeah.
I love it.
I deeply love that as well.
Yeah, I love Greek mythology. I'm here for the Odyssey. It's a great story. I am here for it. I'm so excited to see what he's going to do.
Can't wait to see what he does with it as well. So with that in mind, let's jump into our top 5 scenes for Christopher Nolan. I don't know if you had any particular criteria for your list. I didn't really set too many parameters. I just picked the 5 that really stood out to me the most. Did you have anything specific for you?
I did. Just one. I picked a scene. Each scene I picked is from a different movie.
Yeah, that's fair. I did the same. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only criteria I had.
Yep, totally fair. And I guess did that instinctively. I didn't really write that down anywhere, but I picked 5 different scenes as well.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's get into this then. What do you have at number 5?
Okay. Oh, I also should say that I had a lot of runners up.
Oh, yeah. There's certainly a ton of honorable mentions to be had. Yeah.
But for each film, it's so funny that I didn't have any runners up outside of the 5 movies that I picked, which I think is kind of interesting. But for the first film, for number 5, I had The Prestige. And I feel like there are certain scenes I could have gone with. I could have gone with the ending, the finale reveal of how Hugh Jackman's character does the trick. I could have gone with how Christian Bale's character does the trick earlier, but that's not what I went with. What I went with was the glowing light bulb field scene. And I love this visually, but I also love it thematically. And when I was going through thinking about scenes, and I was going through lists of scenes too, I saw 2 people write about this particular scene. There was Zach Sharf at IndieWire, who said it's, quote, an image both menacing and calm in its stillness. And then Matt Patches at Esquire wrote that it's a scene that shows science and magic are not that far apart. And I kind of love that commingling of magic and science, which initially seemed diametrically opposed. But I love how there's a magic and a wonder in science, which feels so fitting to Christopher Nolan himself as a filmmaker, because he is so mesmerized by puzzles and by science and by technical craft. And he really captures the mysticism and wonder within that, which I love. And I also love how this scene visually connects to the themes in the film of illusion, chicanery, and obsession. And so I just think it's a beautiful visual, but it also is a scene that I think is kind of a microcosm of the whole film. And so I love that one.
Yeah, that's a great scene. I completely agree. It's a good honorable mention. I certainly do have it written down here. And I don't know if I have too much to add other than, and this will be a theme that arises, is that for all of the great spectacle that Nolan can provide, I do think he's actually very good with intimacy as well. And what I mean by that is slowing the films down when they need to
Yes.
emphasize character and theme in some sort of poignant way. I do know, I understand, and it seems as if you agree that he might be a cold filmmaker. That's the reputation he's carried. I will push back against that in this conversation, at least partially, but that's what I do really love about him as a director. I do think that maybe because of the scope of so many of these movies, it's easy to be drawn to the craft in that regard. But man, when I think about Nolan's best work, it often revolves around these quieter moments.
Yes.
And
agreed.
I think he's just as good there. I do think he really cares about those moments.
Mm-hmm.
And this one that you're talking about is extremely good, and it's one of the best scenes in that film for sure.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that because while I do love the spectacles too, of course, and he's so good at them. Most of the picks on my list are the quieter moments. So I completely agree with you that I think he does those incredibly well too.
Absolutely. And that's a good transition to my number 5.
Ooh.
I'm going to a different movie here, and this is a movie full of action and spectacle, but I'm not going to be talking about any of that here. I am going to The Dark Knight here for my number 5.
Yeah.
And this is the Batman interrogation scene. Batman and Joker
This
going
is my
toe to toe
number
here.
2.
Oh, look at that.
We've
cross
already
over,
crossed.
of course.
Yes, I love it. I love
Of
it.
course we cross over. At least it's not in the same spot like it
I
sometimes
know.
tends to be. But that's very fun. I love this moment because the backbone of the film is chaos versus order, right?
Yes,
Where Joker
yes.
is an agent of chaos. Batman is meant to be a symbol of order. But the film constantly blurs that line with the Joker, who doesn't just want to win. He wants to prove that morality is fragile. He wants to introduce a little anarchy, as he states
Yes.
in the film. And that is something this movie wants to wrestle with. It's not just a fun Batman Joker movie. It actually engages with that argument. And this scene is certainly the pinnacle of it. And I do love that it's just these two characters having essentially a conversation. And Nolan isn't doing anything interesting in terms of composition and camera work here. There is one little trick initially as Gordon and Joker have a brief dialogue before he leaves and flips the light on, and we see Batman there in the background. That's about the only formal trickery that Nolan is doing in terms of camera and composition. Outside of that, Nolan strips that away, and it's just about the performances here.
Mm-hmm.
These tight close-ups, it's a pressure cooker of a situation. There's stark lighting here, and it's Ledger and Bale working seamlessly together, and it becomes a battle of philosophies. Joker doesn't just want to beat Batman, he wants to corrupt him. I love how this scene crystallizes the film's thesis of, can someone remain morally good when pushed to their absolute limit? And the answer to that at the end of this film, I think, is fascinating when Batman chooses to do something extremely dubious.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also very funny given what we would come to find out later with the Snowden stuff, which came out 5 years after this movie came out. So it's a bit prescient in that regard as well.
Yes.
But I do love how Joker wants to push that in Batman. And in this moment, it certainly gets those wheels going in a lot of ways. I love how Joker talks about how he and Batman are more similar than they are different. That Batman doesn't abide by the same code as these police officers or the justice system.
Mm-hmm.
And that they won't recognize him. He's just another man in a mask. In that exchange, it's also interesting because Joker knows that he's always going to win the argument no matter what, because he's not intimidated by violence. That line where he says, "You have nothing. You have nothing to threaten me with," as Batman tries to physically assault him, is incredible. It's so good. And he gets under Batman's skin so good that even when Joker releases the information as to where Dent and
Rachel?
Thank you. The name was escaping me there for a moment. That's why you're there. When that information is released, Batman doesn't even stop to consider that Joker was trying to trick him.
No.
Which would have been the most obvious thing. It should have been the most obvious thing, but he doesn't even consider it, which does speak to how much the Joker has control over Batman in all of this. And it's a phenomenal scene that obviously dictates so much of what happens in the aftermath of it. And seeing those actors go toe to toe there, it's incredible. Great moment. My number 5 here.
I love this scene so much. I love this whole film. It's incredible.
Yep.
But it crystallizes in this scene. And there's a reason that Heath Ledger's performance was so lauded, rightfully so, and is so iconic. It's a chameleonic performance for him, and it is unhinged, like nothing we've ever seen from him before, and it was incredible. I love this scene too for all the reasons you're saying. I also love the kind of strange romantic element when the Joker says, "Kill you? I don't want to kill you. What would I do without you? You complete me." And I'm like, this is a romantic line. Like, I love that. And it's amazing because it shows how chaotic and, attached to him he is. But I also love the conversation about a moral code and how he's like, "I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve," which is so great. And he's playing that. Heath Ledger is playing that with such flair and finesse, and he just melts into that role. And I love that this scene showcases how calculated he is, how manipulative he is, and also the Joker's malevolence and how exuberantly and jubilantly he relishes in chaos. I think this scene, coupled with the scene where he's escaped and he's riding out he's sticking his head out the window of the police car. And you see the lights of the city. And it's just, again, it visually encapsulates the chaos. So I love these two scenes kind of together because it's just, it's so good. It's just so good. And I the whole movie is incredible, but this scene in particular is spectacular. I love it.
Honestly, you really could pick any scene with the Joker because of how he's able to tap into that manipulation that he's embodying. It really is phenomenal. Like the blowing up the hospital sequence and the lore around that Heath Ledger improvised that. I mean, incredible. I mean, there's a lot of fun to be had here, and that performance deserved every bit of that praise, as you talked about, deserved the Oscar.
Absolutely.
I love the chaos that he provides to the film. It's phenomenal. But the interrogation scene came to mind to me. I do think it is the nucleus of the film in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
But, awesome moment. Great movie. All right, what do you have at number 4?
Okay. Oh, that's right. We're still only at number 4.
Yeah.
Number 4. So I have some issues with this movie, but I also love elements of this movie. And so I went with Inception. And there are, of course, scenes that get a lot of attention, like, of course, the ending, which people debate about the spinning top, and of course, the hallway tilting scene, which not enough people talk about, is inspired by Paprika by Satoshi Kon. So it's a great scene. That's not what I picked, though. What I picked is arguably a quieter scene, but yet has a ton of spectacle in it. I went with the folding city scene where Ariadne is talking with Cobb about the physics of the dream architecture. and they're walking down a Parisian street, and then all of a sudden, the street starts to fold up and then over on top of itself. And I remember seeing that for the first time, and it's such a spectacle. It's such a visual feast. So I love the visuals of it, but I also love how it plays with that dream logic and reifies the film's themes of a puzzle, of course, and fitting together, but also becoming lost in the labyrinth of your mind. And so I love that scene. I remember seeing it for the first time and just kind of my jaw dropping, because it's such a cool visual effect. And I loved it.
Yeah, I love that moment as well. I'm a big fan of Inception. It's one of my favorite films of 2010. And that sequence is really great because it's the first time we're really seeing what these dreamscapes are capable of.
Yes.
And the imagination and everything that goes into it. And it is a really great effect. I also love how that sequence ends because, and I say this very complimentary, it rips off At World's End with the exploding effect as the characters are still sitting there and everything's kind of exploding around them is the same effect and technology we see at the end of At World's End and the exploding boat. So I love how Pirates comes back once again. I love that.
Always comes back to Pirates.
Look, if you're going to steal something from Pirates, that's a good trick to thieve.
Yep.
And in the spirit of Inception, which is all about thieving anyway, I think it only makes sense for Nolan to do that. And I mean, it's a great moment. Really love that as well. That's a good honorable mention for me. Love that and Inception. My number 4, I'm going to one of my very favorite movies of 2017. I am talking about Dunkirk.
Yes.
And again, this is just going to be the theme for me because the scene I'm picking here is Tom Hardy's Farrier character landing the plane on the beach there at the very end.
Yes.
What I love most about Dunkirk and what separates it from most modern warfare or war films, is the graceful nature of it. I do appreciate a dark and gritty war film. Fury is another big film from the 2010s that I do really love, and how that film used violence and brutality to emulate its themes of seeking normalcy in war. But Dunkirk is the antithesis to that. Nolan isn't interested in the savagery of war, but rather the beauty that can come from it. It's about nobility in military failure and how unfiltered sacrifice came as a result. Or, in other words, at the heart of the film, it's about the intimacy of heroism. And the way Nolan edits and paces the film and the way he uses visual storytelling, the way he focuses on emotion, it all lends itself impeccably to that idea of intimacy and sacrifice and heroism. And it's what makes that final sequence of Farrier gliding his Spitfire onto the beach so breathtaking, because the whole movie had been building to that sequence.
Yes.
And the images on display there are the embodiment of heroic intimacy, even in defeat. It's incredibly moving. The shot of the plane on fire there at the end of the film, it's a perfect way to symbolize those ideas. And I find it so evocative and tragic simultaneously. There's something about the subtlety of it. Dunkirk isn't a film aiming for overt emotion, but because of how the film had been building to what Farrier does there, the actions that he takes specifically, coupled with Tom Hardy's internalized performance, I find it so gripping and so affecting and emotional. It's mesmerizing in its beauty. It was one of my top 5 scenes of 2017, and my number 4 here.
I love that. I love that scene. That was an honorable mention for me because I love that moment. It not only is it visually beautiful, but that defiance is so palpable and so powerful. And Dunkirk, spoiler alert, is my favorite Nolan film, so I adore
Yeah.
it. It is one I like to rewatch, so it
Yeah.
might
It's
show
my-
up
it's
later
my
on
number
my
2.
list.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, this is
Yeah.
my number 1 and Dark Knight is my number 2. So yeah.
There you go.
stuff.
All right. What do you have at number 3?
Okay, number 3. This is going to surprise you, I think, because we have talked about how this film does not work for us. But
Okay.
but this is a scene.
Which can I just say real fast?
Yes.
That I got a text. I might have to just put it here on the screen for people to see on YouTube. But for people listening, I got a text from Sam. I did not know this was going to happen, by the way. This was out of the blue. But I get a text from Sam earlier in the week. I think it was Thursday maybe. And he just says, Dad. So I reply like, yes. And he just replies with, I'm going to watch Interstellar today. And I said, okay. Let me know what you think. And I come home from work and he is watching Interstellar by himself. He sought it out himself. He wanted to watch it and rented it and watched it on his own. And look,
I can't.
my feelings on
He's
it
amazing.
aside, I was blown away. I was blown away. This kid is seeking out, like, he's not just watching simple-minded movies. Like, he's truly seeking out sophisticated movies.
Yes.
And
Like
I
the
could not be
best-
more proud.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You've done
it
a
was
great
unreal.
job. You've done
Thank
a
you.
great job teaching him about incredible films
I
and
know.
film watching. But it
But
is
of course,
like,
he loved it. He loved the movie. I'm glad
love
that he
it.
loved
I
the
love it.
movie.
Yes.
I'm jealous of people that love the movie. So I do.
Me too.
I loved that for him. Anyway, I didn't mean to steal your thunder there.
No,
but when you
no.
brought it up, I was like, I could not believe what happened this week.
I can't, like, the caliber of the films that he is watching and wants to watch and is seeking out, it's blowing my mind. I can't handle it. It's too good.
know.
It's too good.
And
It's amazing.
Yeah, and a lot of it, he's just simply searching his own. I mean, we've had some conversations, but a lot of the time he'll come to me and be like, I think I'm going to add this to the list.
I love
And I
that.
said, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for the day where he gets to Chaplin or Citizen Kane. We haven't gotten there yet,
Oh,
but he's
yeah.
still seeking out. Like, he's not just watching kids movies.
No.
He's watching like real cinephilistic movies.
Which is
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, it's unreal. Yeah.
But you clearly have an influence. Like, there's, even if you're not saying, hey, these are the films I think you should watch, or I think you would like, or I think you get something out of, or that you should watch, to flesh out your cinephile education. No, clearly you have an influence on him, which I think in the way that you watch films and the way you talk about them, I think that's incredible. I think that's such a gift, and that's lovely.
It is,
and it's
yeah.
just still blowing my mind what great taste he has in films.
I know. I love it.
It's incredible. Well, I feel like this is a perfect pick for Sam then, because even though, and to be fair, I do need to rewatch this film in its entirety. It's been a long time, but this is a scene that I kept seeing over and over, people talking about, and I rewatched just this scene, and I was a sobbing mess. So I was like, okay, this is a scene that I think works, even if I think the whole movie doesn't. I had to go with Interstellar, and I had to go with the scene where Cooper is watching the years of videos that his children have sent him. I think it is an incredible scene because it's so emotional. It's very intimate. I think Matthew McConaughey does an incredible job here. And it's also a scene very different than what he usually does with his bravura, swagger performance. And it's just him crying and observing and emoting. And I also think that this scene's really powerful because it's so much about losing time and how time just slips through your fingers and missing time with loved ones. And so even though the whole film might not work for me, I think this scene is a really beautiful scene and really incredibly well done.
Megan, this scene is a big reason I feel so bipolar with Interstellar.
Yeah.
This scene coupled with a couple of others. But this scene absolutely kills me. This movie, this particular scene, it is stunning. When this film is working, it is an all-timer. And I've talked about this a little bit. In fact, when you came on the show and Brennan and I and you, we did that sci-fi March Madness thing that we did.
Yes.
And we brought up Interstellar because, of course, we had to bring up Interstellar. And we all somewhat feel similarly on it. And I do remember us talking about this there. But for new listeners of the show, a lot of my issues with the film, or at least, I guess before I get to that, let me just reiterate that I do think that there are elements of this film that is genuinely all-time stuff. When you're talking about the score to this film, I think it is some of Zimmer's absolute best, if not his very, very best. I think Tars is one of the best movie robots. Hands down. Full stop. I will champion the shit out of Tars. He's unbelievable. Just as a space adventure, there's a lot to love here. As a father-daughter movie, there's a lot to love here. But that is also the problem. Because you get to the end of this film and the whole thing, I would say almost exclusively was about that relationship. And then to abandon that at the end for something else entirely, it's not earned. It's not earned. The Anne Hathaway character, I don't like that relationship. Like, it just doesn't make sense given the relationship of those two characters throughout the whole thing. And to pivot like that at the end, it's baffling. But it, like, those frustrations are born from scenes like this that I do think are extremely effective. I think the opening scene of this film, I can barely get through it. When he has to say goodbye to Murph, I can't do it. I have to walk away.
Oh, that's brutal.
This film is Nolan at his most overt emotionally. And it is phenomenal. He is cooking with gas, with interstellar gas. It is unbelievable how good that emotion is. And I have seen this film a couple of times. I was really hoping, because it obviously came out before Sam was born. And I had the same frustrations then. I was really hoping that watching this after having kids and becoming a parent, that my issues would remedy themselves. But it was the exact opposite. The things that I loved, I fell more in love with, and my frustrations became only more irksome. Because those scenes do work. They are really great. It is all-time stuff. And then to pivot at the end for a relationship that is barely talked about, what are you doing? Why are we undercutting that emotion for something that it is one of the most baffling decisions Nolan has made in any of his movies. And I don't think it really works all that great thematically either. Even though I understand the fundamental basis of it, it logically makes sense, but I think emotionally it's extremely misguided.
Yeah.
My frustrations are frustrating because the scene that you're talking about is remarkable with a capital R. And McConaughey is unreal.
I don't think he's ever been better than, he's been excellent many times. But in that one scene, I don't know if he's ever been better than that one scene.
It is, it's very, very good. So in a vacuum, I wholeheartedly there with you. It's a great moment. Great scene. Very good honorable mention. I just wish that the film had capitalized on it.
I completely agree with everything you're saying. And that's why I was kind of surprised. that scene worked so well, not because it didn't the first time I watched it, but just because of that kind of vacillation watching the film where it's like, I love this scene. This scene's annoying. I love this scene. Yeah. So, but it is a great scene.
Good stuff. I do love it. All right. My number 3, we're going back to the world of Inception.
Ooh.
And I am going with the ending scene here, maybe for different reasons than what you brought up earlier, though. For me, this all comes back to that idea of Nolan being known, at least for a while, as a cold and emotionless filmmaker. I've never subscribed to that personally.
Nope.
But especially after Inception. Most people might point to Interstellar for the reasons we just talked about. But for me, I've never been more emotionally moved, at least in a Nolan film, more than the final scene of Inception. This is a movie about processing and coping with grief, of course, and often feeling like you're stuck between realities. And Cobb's number one priority, he talks about this a couple of times in the film, his number one priority to overcome his guilt is the idea of seeing his kids' face again. I wish that I could show it on camera. I have chills on my arm as I say those words, literally. That idea slays me. But the moment Cobb walks into the home there at the end, and he places the top on the table, and of course he spins it because he's often feeling stuck between realities. But then we see him look over at his kids, much like we saw earlier in the film, and there is maybe a little bit of hesitation on his face. And I do love the ambiguity there in Leo's performance. He looks at him much as he's dreamt before, and there is some hesitation as if this is real. But then his kids turn around, and for the first time, we see their young, innocent faces. And Cobb immediately runs over to them. He forgets about the top altogether. He just runs to them and picks them up as we see immense joy on their faces to see their dad again. It is absolutely killer. Now, we have to address the elephant in the room that some of this, maybe a big part of this, is Hans Zimmer's iconic music there. It very much elevates the pathos of the moment for sure. It is one of Zimmer's best tracks. I still think that you could argue it's the best score of that year simply because that piece of music has transcended the film. It has become a cultural moment, a cultural thing that we see in all of these other pieces of media. So the score is doing some lifting there. There's no doubt about it. But I don't think it's all Zimmer, though. It is, again, Cobb's hesitation, the idea of him feeling stuck. Is he going to overcome his guilt? This is the thing he had been looking forward to the most. And he talked about it earlier in the film. So the moment we see the kids turn around, it's no longer about being stuck in reality. It's no longer about guilt. It is all about moving forward, which is why the debate over whether the top, whether it's real or not, I think is irrelevant. I think that is a futile conversation to have. I don't think that moment, it's not about that. Who cares? No. That is a waste of energy as far as I am concerned. Whether it's real or not, for Cobb, I think he finds peace by seeing his kids again. And that's all that matters. Whether he's in the dream world or not, he has moved on. That's his new reality. And the way Nolan frames it, the way it's edited, the reverse shot of Cobb and then seeing the kids and him running to them, picking them up in this new elation, it is staggering to me. I am a giant mess every single time I watch that scene. whether in context or not. I mean, I watched it earlier today in preparation for this, and I had to leave the room.
Oh,
I just like it kills me. Like I will argue to death that Nolan is an emotional filmmaker. He might show it in different ways. It might come through in different ways. Sometimes it's subtle, like the Farrier moment. That's not an overt emotional moment, but the beauty of it is so overwhelming that it is emotional. And sometimes it is direct, such as Interstellar. And I agree with everything you had to say. And this is another great moment that is eliciting phenomenal emotion that is wholly earned. The whole movie had been building to this, such as the Farrier scene. So yeah, I'm always overwhelmed. Like Inception, again, it's a really fun, smart, sophisticated movie taking us through all those layers. There's great storytelling to the movie, but more than anything else, that is the moment I always look forward to, is that ending scene and that reunion. It kills me. My number 3 here.
Yeah, it's two things. One, it is a great scene, and I completely agree with you that it does not matter. I am someone who likes to figure things out. I like the puzzle element of it. And so I think there's something to be said about that conversation. Like, is it real? Is it not? But it really doesn't matter ultimately. You're absolutely right. It makes, I'm going to say something, and I think it's funny because it has kind of been answered, but it reminds me of the Sopranos finale. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter when it cuts to black, like what happens next, because that's the whole point. The whole point is that Tony will forever be looking over his shoulder. And so, and we'll always have that tension. And similarly, it doesn't matter if it's real or not, because you're right. Yeah. Just like you said, he has moved on. This is his reality. So whether it's the reality or a dream reality, it doesn't matter. It's his. So I completely agree with you in that regard. The other thing is, I also totally agree. Christopher Nolan is not a cold filmmaker. And again, I also get why. But just because he's methodical and just because he's perhaps more cerebral in certain ways, that doesn't mean there's a lack of emotion. And there are numerous examples that show that he's emotional, just maybe in a more subtle or different way than other filmmakers.
And that's it. Yeah. And I probably came off a little bit too dismissive around the intellectual angle of the moment.
I think it's fine.
I was being a little facetious there because of the argument I was trying to make.
Yeah.
Because logically, there's a discussion to be had there, for sure. And I'm not trying to downplay that as much as I'm just saying it doesn't matter.
No,
it doesn't matter. We can debate all day whether the top falls or it doesn't. Is it real or is he in the dreamscape? Sure, that's a fascinating bar conversation to have. And also, and maybe that's the most appropriate place to have it because you're drinking and who cares? Because it doesn't really matter. Like it's literally a waste of breath. But in a bar, that's a good place to waste breath when you're just drinking and trying to unwind and not be too serious. But yeah, I don't think it matters. Like the moment he sees his kids, that's his new reality. That's him moving on. And that's the point of the scene. Yes. And again, I find it really incredible how it manifests there from an execution standpoint. Nolan, I think, sticks that landing impeccably. And I love it. My number 3. All right. So you already talked about your number 2.
Yes, I did.
That is the Dark Knight scene, as we talked about earlier. So I will quickly give my number 2. And again, we're going back to Interstellar.
Oh,
I cannot emphasize this enough. When this film is working, it is capital W working. It is unbelievable. I truly think this is one of the best films of the last 30 years when it doesn't sabotage itself at the end. But the sequence I'm going with, and this is the one outlier in on my top 5. This is Nolan's spectacle. And this is Nolan at his absolute best. It is the docking sequence in Interstellar.
Oh,
This is one of the most thrilling sequences I've ever seen. Nolan's filmmaking is off the charts. The urgency of the moment is spectacular, obviously, given what takes place there. And appropriately, as we were talking about earlier regarding the 2000s and how a lot of those movies are a perfect marriage of practical effects and locations and CGI, I think this is another one of those phenomenal examples where there is tangibility to the craft and to the set, especially the interior shots that we see there. But you get these large, grand, wide shots to demonstrate the geography of the scene.
yes.
So you always know where the endurance is. We always know where the ranger is. We know how fast everything is spinning, and we know how far they have to go to catch up. There's a lot happening to the moment, but it's all done with vivid cogency. And because Cooper is having to match the rotation perfectly, and this ties wonderfully into something we talked about in our tuner review last week, there's a lot of sciencey jargon here. And I am a fan of jargon.
I was just going to say,
Give me-
love it.
You give me a ton of awesome jargon and natural dialogue, I am there. You don't have to explain it. And this is the one moment of the film where Nolan doesn't explain it. And that is another issue. I do think some of the exposition in this film is kind of weak comparatively to some of other Nolan's films. I understand it has to be here. It's a little bit more contrived in Interstellar. But this is a moment where Nolan forgets all of that. There's no exposition. We're not explaining the science. It's just a ton of jargon and dialogue between Cooper and Tars and Case. And look, we live in a world where we push back against AI. Case, that's an AI I can live with. I love Case. Tars and Case absolutely freaking rule. Okay.
You're like, I approve.
I approve. And again, I love that banter. I love that dialogue between Cooper and those characters. And you get that phenomenal, it's not possible, no, it's necessary moment from McConaughey. Like, as good as he is on the emotional side, when it comes to the urgency of the film, he's just as good there. Because he nails that line of dialogue. He is so incredible. And again, Hans Zimmer, unbefucking-leavable what he does here. This track is unreal. It is called No Time for Caution, which is something Case says in the moment, of course. And it is a breathtaking piece of music. You have that iconic organ, of course, that plays all the melodies of the score. It's the backbone of the score. And it pulsates leading up to where they have to connect the rotation as they go to dock. And the percussion mirrors the spinning of the station as well. So the music keeps escalating. The percussion is in rhythm to the spinning of the Ranger. And once they begin to dock, you get these horns kick in and these strings kick in, and it just goes to a whole new level. And it is unbelievable. One of the most exciting moments I've had in a theater, hands down. And again, it speaks to my frustrations of this movie, because God damn it, when this film is great, it is really, really great. I want to love this movie desperately. I've seen this film like 4 times, and each time I am desperate to come around on it. And I will never, I don't think I will ever forgive that ending for sabotaging this film for me. I think that ending is so obtuse and stupid. But leading up to it, it truly is an all-timer. And this scene is freaking incredible. I really love it. So yeah, that docking sequence, I had to have some Nolan spectacle here, given his, a lot of the movies we've seen from him. And this is peak. This is peak Nolan in terms of that goes for me. So the docking sequence, Interstellar, my number 2.
I love that. I also love, and something I didn't realize until very, very recently, was that Tars and Case were puppets. And I love that they're puppets, especially considering that Matt Damon talked about the puppet of, I think, the Cyclops.
The Cyclops, yeah.
Yes.
Like a 60-foot Cyclops.
Yes.
Crazy.
I'm obsessed with that. And so I love that Nolan is having puppets in his films too. Like, that's great. So yeah, I'm here for it. But yeah.
Yeah, I love a good movie robot, and this had 2.
Yeah, me too.
2 of the best movie robots we've ever seen. And it's phenomenal. And it is Bill Irwin, I think. Does he voice? No, Josh Stewart is the voice of Case. Bill Irwin does the puppetry for Tars and Case, though. Yeah, pretty incredible, man. Yeah, I do love that. But I wanted to shout out Josh Stewart though, because the voice of Case, because that's what's mostly bantering with McConaughey in the moment.
Yeah.
Because Anne Hathaway just passes out. She's just there. We cut to her a few times. She knocked out. Which, okay, all joking aside, I do think you need that because it demonstrates how physically demanding the scene is, given the G's that they're experiencing. So it does give stakes to the moment. And I do love that McConaughey or that Cooper talks about that, right? Because he's like, if I pass out, Tars, this is totally up to you. Don't screw this up. And so it makes for some fun banter there. It's a phenomenal moment. I do love it. I do really, genuinely, all kidding aside, I do really like a lot of this film. But that's the problem.
A lot of it's great.
The problem is I do love it. And then the ending sabotages itself. Much like Matt Damon. Just explodes itself. That's what this movie does. It Matt Damons itself at the end.
It Matt Damons. I love that you're using Matt Damon as a verb.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can't remember the character's name. What is the character's name? I have to look
remember.
It up. How can I forget Dr. Man?
Oh, could we forget?
Because he's man and he's evil. He's mankind. Do you get it? I don't love the writing of Interstellar is what I'm hinting at there.
Yeah. The rat stands for obvious. Yeah.
God. At any rate, it mans itself at the end, as man tends to do.
Yeah, indeed.
All right. Anyway, the docking sequence Interstellar is my number 2. What do you got at number 1?
Okay, number 1. I said it before that Dunkirk might be on my list again.
Yes.
And yes, Dunkirk is my number 1 because Dunkirk is my favorite Nolan film. I love it so much. I think it is an impeccable film. I love it from start to finish. And I could have easily picked any scene. And I think it would have been incredible. And I will say I did almost go with Farrier landing the plane and burning Spitfire because it is such a moving and beautiful scene. I could have also gone with the train ride home at the end. I think that's incredible. The destroyer hit by a U-boat torpedo. Dawson and his son Peter on the civilian boat, kind of any scene from that. But also the beach day bombing. I think that's an incredible scene too. But the scene that I picked, and this also speaks to the spectacle, because this whole film is spectacle. And I think it is what Nolan does so incredibly well as emotion, as I think we're talking a lot about how he is a really emotional filmmaker. But for me, I picked the soldiers on the mole and the bombing of the hospital ship. That scene is visually really powerful. Seeing all of the soldiers huddled on the mole. and they're terrified, and there's nowhere for them to go, and there's nowhere to run, and it's dread inducing, and it feels so oppressive in how they're trapped with nothing, with no shelter. And I think that scene really heightens the tension, and it gets under my skin, and it makes me want to just like escape. And I love that. But I think there are so many incredible scenes and moments from this film, and I love how it's structured. I love how it's storytelling in a non-linear way, which I think is so great, which is not obviously the first time Nolan has done it. He's done it through many of his films. But I love that, again, time is of the essence. Time is an enemy. Time is kind of an obstacle. But I love how that works in conjunction with what's going on here. And I also love how it pairs with what you were saying about Dunkirk earlier, about, you know, sacrifice, and how this isn't a typical war film. And I think that's why I love it so much, because I don't love most war films, because they are very rah-rah and very patriotic, and that's, I guess, fine, but that's not really what speaks to me. And I do love films that highlight the brutality of war, and this does that too, but it does it in a very, very different way, and it really does showcase the heroism as well as moments of cowardice. And I think it really covers a spectrum of emotions and spectacle, and does it in a really, really compelling way. I just love this film. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, I love Dunkirk as well. That's a really great moment. Very good honorable mention. And yeah, I mean, I think what's great about that sequence and so many others here is that it certainly depicts the stakes of the moment and the devastating consequences at play, which then heightens the heroism that we eventually do see.
Yes.
Both from military personnel and civilians as well. And that's obviously, I mean, that might seem obvious, but I do love how Nolan goes about depicting that here through this incredible beauty, this subtle beauty throughout the film. And of course, the way he plays with time in it all is also a significant part of the film, and it is incredible. But yeah, I do love that moment and how it speaks to really the same thematic ideas that I talked about with Furier as well. It just goes about it through slightly different mechanisms that it kind of takes that tragedy and then flips it later on. And it's great stuff. Yeah, I love Dunkirk. It is absolutely one of Nolan's best. Yeah,
for sure.
My number one is my favorite Nolan film. I think this is one of the best movies of the decade to this point. In fact, I do think it is the best film of the decade so far. And this is one of the best scenes of the decade as well for me. This is the gymnasium scene in Oppenheimer. And it's exactly why I am thrilled that Nolan talked earlier in the week about possibly doing a horror film. Because he should. He should.
100%. I cannot wait to see what he would do with a horror film.
I can't wait to see that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Oppenheimer in so many ways is Nolan at his most. Well, yes, absolutely. I was going to say it's, in a lot of ways, it's Nolan at his most operatic. It's a bit ethereal, but it's also Nolan at his most horrific, hands down. And this scene is a culmination of all of those scenes, as it's this haunting moment of deep regret, despite Oppenheimer's invention being one of the most pivotal scientific breakthroughs in all of human history, a moment that forever changed the world. And the way Nolan highlights that juxtaposition in this scene, I think is some of the best work of his entire career. It's incredible. Robert begins backstage to somewhat muted chants of his name. He starts to walk to the stage with not only cheers, but the stomping on the bleachers, a sound design choice that had been foreshadowed throughout the entire film suggesting Robert's torment, and you very much see the hesitation on his face. I do love that about Cillian Murphy's performance here as well. And then he goes on to give that speech, which starts off simple enough at first, but it doesn't take long before Nolan interjects as we see the background start to tremble. The sound becomes disturbing, all while he's giving what seems to be on the surface this rousing speech. And what he does with the sound work from there is mind blowing, because you see people clapping, we see them cheering, but what we hear are screams.
Yes,
we hear a visceral rumbling noise. We see a light flash from a bomb that rips off the skin from members in the audience before ashes start to fall from the ceiling. When all of a sudden the crowd noise kicks back in, coupled with a disturbing musical cue that captures impeccably Robert's deep trepidation. And then it all ends with him stepping on a dead body who's been turned into ash and dust, while we hear agonizing screams and cries from those as he walks by. It is terrifying. It is genuinely terrifying. And I think it immaculately demonstrates Oppenheimer's paranoia and his unraveling, as we see there at the end of the film. I mean, we haven't seen Nolan go 90 minutes of horror, like a full horror film, but he should. He absolutely should, because I think he would be very, very good at it, given what we see in this gymnasium scene. And I think it just taps into the beating heart and the nucleus of Oppenheimer and what that film is trying to convey overall, which is why for me it's maybe the scene of the decade to this point, and my favorite Nolan scene as of now.
That is such an incredible pick. I don't want to say the only reason, but maybe the only reason I didn't go with Oppenheimer was because I feel I need to watch it again. And I don't know, sometimes I need to let films sit a little longer, even though it's not a new movie. Like, it's not brand new. It's, obviously, but that is such an, like, I'm feeling kind of sick to my stomach and getting like shivers just thinking about that scene, just hearing you talk about it again. And yeah, that is it. It's such a disturbing scene, rightfully so. And it would have been, I don't want to say easy, but so often with biopics, the subject of said biopic is lauded, lionized, just seen as this paragon of perfection. And I love that that's not what's happening here. It's in a way, it feels very much like an antithesis to that and a questioning of that legacy. And I think that that's great. I think it makes for a more complex film, a more challenging film. And I think that's definitely needed. And I think that's great. So excellent scene. Such a great choice.
And of course, as the horror aficionado of the two of us, it felt appropriate that that's the scene I go with.
I love that. Yes, I love that. That scene is so awful. And I mean that as a compliment. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, very much so. But no, all joking aside, I agree. I think it unlike Interstellar, it absolutely capitalizes on what had been building to that moment.
Yes.
Perfectly demonstrate that paranoia and fear that he has been feeling, which, we get perfectly in the final shot of the film. That final frame is incredible. But yes, I love that film a lot. I know we're going kind of long here, so hopefully we can get through this quickly. But are there a few honorable mentions you want to throw out there? I know we could talk another 50 scenes here, but
we could. And I did mention some of my honorable mentions throughout. So, but I will say one that I haven't mentioned that is also from Oppenheimer, that is a scene that I really like. And I think it's in my head because I heard Emily Blunt speak about it recently. I don't know if it was recent or I just saw it recently, but it was the scene where she was talking about the direction from Christopher Nolan, where she is to look like she is chewing something in her mouth. And it's when she refuses to shake hands with Benny Safdie. And it's a great scene. And it's a quieter scene. It's a not a showy scene in a film that is very, I think operatic is the perfect word to describe that film. And I really like that for some reason that scene has stood out. And like I said, perhaps it's because I just heard her speak about it.
Sure.
But I think it's a great scene because you see everything on her face. Like, you know exactly what she's thinking and feeling in that moment. So
yeah, that's a good one. I really do have 40 different scenes here. So we just don't have time to go through all of them. I will say there are several from Memento that I really wanted to include here because I love that film as well.
It's great.
Maybe the final reveal near the end of the film would have, very much considered that as well. And while I still can't fully wrap my head around Tenet, it is still a film that I'm continually fascinated by. That's another one that I don't fully love, but it's different than something like Interstellar. Interstellar, I know exactly what the issue is. I know my problem there, and I don't know if it's ever going to be fixed. Tenet is one of those where it's like, I can't really put my finger on it. I'm still trying to figure it out. And I don't know. Like, I don't know. But they're like the Freeport temporal pincer fight, like that whole sequence, I just find so fascinating. And again, I think it's the direction of it and just the unique way that whole film is framed. It's so very Nolan that I am fascinated by it. Even if I can't fully wrap my head around it, I am so fascinated by how Nolan it is, if that makes sense. So, very much consider that as well, among many, many other scenes here. I mean, like I said, I love pretty much all of his movies. The Dark Knight Rises is the only one I would argue is actively bad.
I agree with that. I do not like that film.
I know some people push back against that. If people like it, I'm glad. It does not work for me. I don't think that film is very good. But all the others, I think, are varying degrees of good to really great. And I'm excited. We'll list out all the honorable mentions on the website. I'll put the top 5 up on the website, and we can list out all the honorable mentions. So you can go and read those there. But for the sake of time, we'll go ahead and move on here, and we'll round out the show. So again, as we noted up at the top, be sure to check out our review of The Odyssey. That is happening this week. We will also be talking about Olivia Wilde's new film, The Invite. Very much look forward to that as well. We're going to have 2 really, really fun reviews this week. So make sure you stay tuned. New Chasing the Gold at the end of the week as well. Make sure you subscribe to the show, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, however you listen. Be sure to subscribe. Really do appreciate everyone listening. If you want to become an In Session Film VIP, you can sign up on Patreon, patreon.com/InSessionFilm. We have bonus content that goes up there every month as well. Megan, anything else? Am I forgetting anything? Any final thoughts?
I don't think so. Just I'm excited. I'm so excited to watch The Odyssey and The Invite. Excited to see them. Excited to talk about them. Yeah.
Be 2 fun reviews. Stay tuned for all that. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the In Session Film Podcast.